Hey there, it's Tom Corson-Knowles, #1 best-selling author of the Kindle Publishing Bible series and founder of TCK Publishing. Welcome to the Publishing Profits Podcast Show, where our mission is to help you turn your writing into a profitable career. All right, guys, in today's show, we're going to do something a little bit different. So I know you've probably listened to last shows, or maybe you're brand new to the show, but normally we interview best-selling authors, marketers, PR specialists, publishers, professionals in the publishing industry who can share their story and some awesome tips for writers and authors. But in today's show, it's just going to be me, and I'm going to share with you 15 success habits of professional writers and authors. And this is kind of based on a blog post I wrote in May called 15 Success Habits of Professional Writers and Authors, What Makes Them Successful While Others May Fail. So it's a little bit different in this episode, so please let me know what you think. Leave a review of the podcast on iTunes, or write a comment beneath this video or audio, or send us an email. Let us know what you think about this show, whether you would love more interviews or more interactive stuff like this. So let me know, okay? So let's get started. So #1 success habit of professional writers and authors is that they write daily. If not daily, at least weekly. But the thing is that professionals write on a schedule, right? So they don't just leave it up to chance when they feel inspired. Professional writers and authors, they actually schedule their writing time on a regular basis and stick to it. They don't let themselves succumb to writer's block or lack of inspiration. Professionals just write, like, period. They just do it, and they do it a lot. They might skip a day or here, or take a week off, or go on vacation. But they don't give up. They don't quit, right? If they have to go on a schedule to time their calendar, or turn down requests for social events or appointments, or commute to a quieter location, they do whatever it takes to write consistently and invest the many hours it takes to create great work. And what I found, for myself and a lot of the writers I've interviewed, is that there's only so much time that you can actually write in a day. For some people, they hit their limit at an hour or 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. And I find most writers don't really write more than 4 hours a day, even if they, like, as hard as they try, they can't write more than 4 hours a day. Some do 6 or 8 or 10 or 12. But most authors don't write 8 hours a day every day, right? And so if you're only going to write, and be in that creative writing mode for a couple hours a day, if that's your max, make sure you're doing that every day consistently, and you'll get way, way more output, right? So instead of trying to write, 16-hour days, for a week or a month, if you just write an hour or 2 hours a day, over a long period of time, you'll create many, many amazing books, right? And you can create several books a year, just an hour, 2 hours a day, right? So, just stay consistent. Write daily, write consistently. And if, writing daily is probably something you've heard before. It's probably like you're thinking, like, this isn't new, Tom. Everyone talks about this stuff. But what I found for myself is an awesome way to do it is just focus on 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes, just 15 minutes. If you can just sit down at your computer and write for 10 minutes each day, you're good, because you're building up that habit of writing. And sometimes those 10-minute writing sessions will turn into an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours. And other times you might not feel inspired, and you might not feel it that day, and you give up after 10 minutes and you quit and you go on to other work or whatever you want to do. That's fine, right? But as long as you have develop that habit of writing consistently, you can become a professional very, very quickly. But don't think that you're going to come to success and you're going to create this amazing book or manuscript, or many books or manuscripts, without putting in the time, right? And the more you do it every single day, the faster it's going to be and the easier it's going to get. Okay, #2, professional authors don't complain or maintain a victim mentality. This is huge. You see, professional writers and authors, they don't complain about how hard it is to get published or how unlucky they are on a regular basis. They focus on writing and getting their work done. And this doesn't mean you don't complain sometimes to your spouse or your friends or your writer friends, or, on online forums. We all have bad days and we all complain. Like, that's just part of life, But professionals, they don't stay there. They don't stay in that complaining zone, So they're not every day complaining about how hard it is, right? So if you have a bad day and you feel like you have to complain or let off some steam, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you don't stay stuck in that mentality where you think you're a victim of this, the cold, cold, harsh reality of the world, right? If you get rejected 100 times, many writers have, and most writers are bound to be rejected many, many times. If you get rejected many times, you just continue to submit your manuscript until it gets published, or you just self-publish instead. right? And if you have to go through another rewrite or use a new pen name or write a new book, the pros will do that. Whatever it takes, they're going to do to succeed. Professionals don't let anything stop them, right? Especially not a victim mentality or a negative attitude. And this is big. And I've noticed this, like when you join a writers group or an online forum or online community or any kind of network of writers and authors, make sure that it's a group that actually lifts you up instead of a group that brings you down. Right, so if every one time you join this group or this conversation and everyone's talking about how hard it is and how bad things are and how much life sucks, it's not very inspiring and it's not very supportive and it's not helping you grow, right? And the way you become more successful is you grow. And by learning, by doing more, by achieving more, by coming up with new ideas, by being around successful people, people who are on the same path, the same mission as you, that's how you grow, right? And it's in my experience, it's very hard to grow when you have this victim mentality that you think, you deserve success, but the world's not giving it to you, or, you're entitled to success, right? So that's not how it works, right? You earn success by doing great work, right? And sticking around people who are negative, who are dream stealers, who just, don't think it's going to work out, it's tough, it's draining. So I would say focus on finding people who support you. All right, number 3, professional authors aren't afraid to self-promote, to market themselves, and to build their author platform. You see, the pros understand that it takes a dedicated fan base and a lot of promotion to make a difference with their books and earn a living. If you want to earn more money, help more people, and get your message out there, you have to be willing to promote yourself a lot, right? Like every day. Like in the supermarket, when you're talking to strangers, or on your Facebook page, on social media while you're waiting in line at the supermarket. Like never pass up an opportunity to promote yourself and your books. If you do, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday for sure. And what I mean by this is it's not about, spamming Twitter and Facebook about buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. It's, when you come up with an idea for a promotion strategy and you have that idea in your mind, or you think, oh, I should call this person, or I should email that person, or, oh, you're having a conversation with a stranger and it comes up, share your book, promote you, promote what you're doing. That's what the pros do. And what I mean by you'll regret it if you don't do that is anytime you have this idea where you think, oh, this idea will improve my life. It'll make my life better. It'll help me sell more books. It'll help make the world a better place. Whenever you have that idea and you ignore it, in my experience, it brings you down a whole nother level, and you end up regretting that. And learn from those experiences. When you have an experience like that, you have a great idea, a great opportunity, and you pass on that opportunity and you regret it later, maybe take a hint from that and learn in the future, so that when you do see new promotional opportunities, new promotional ideas, you jump on them right away, because opportunities don't last forever, right? So you don't have to take advantage of every opportunity. In fact, you should probably turn down many of them. But when you feel like an opportunity is good for you, it's right for you, it matches your values and your heart says this is the right thing to do, go for it, right? Don't be afraid, don't be shy, just promote yourself. That's how, you have to be willing to promote yourself. And it's not about being salesy, it's about educating people about what you're doing, what you're up to. So if you're a nonfiction author, education's easy, right? If you're a fiction author, because for a nonfiction author, you're an expert in your field, right? And you're just sharing people how to solve a certain problem. So if you're health and wellness, you're sharing with people how to live a healthier, life. That's awesome, right? And all you have to do to sell that and to sell your books and to market yourself is just educate the public about what they need to do to live a healthier life. Now, for fiction authors, it's a little bit different because you're basically a storyteller. So instead of educating people about, the benefits of fruits and vegetables, you can educate people by sharing your stories with them and letting them know that you've got more stories in your books, right? Okay, number 4, professional authors build an opt-in only email list and connect with readers online. So professional authors understand that their email list is one of their greatest assets. And the truth is, not all professional authors actually have an opt-in email list. So, so some of these habits, don't take them as the creed or law that every successful author in the world does all these things. That's not true. But in my experience, doing these things will help you take yourself to a much higher level of success, right? So, if you really want to be a professional author, you have to understand that what a professional autoresponder is, like Aweber or Infusionsoft or GetResponse, MailChimp. These are professional autoresponders. So your email list, if you just have an email list of like friends and family on AOL or Gmail, and you email announcements every once in a while, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not a professional email list. It's just a list of emails that you have. It's not a professional email list, right? So your professional email lists are managed by something called an autoresponder, and like the ones I mentioned before. And what they do is they manage your email list for you. They allow readers to sign up automatically on your website. And they just manage the entire process of your email marketing campaign and your email subscribers much, much, much easier, right? So, the pros, they don't leave connecting with readers up to their publishers or publicists. You have to respond to emails from your readers, hear what your readers love, what they don't like, get feedback, get ideas, learn what your readers are passionate about. That's what you do, and you can do that through email, right? So I would highly recommend getting an email, starting to build your email list if you haven't already. I've got some awesome free training videos for you to show you how to do that. Just go to tckpublishing.com/training-videos. So it's tckpublishing.com/training-videos. And on that page, there's tons and tons of training videos on marketing and publishing and all that stuff. At the bottom, there will be a series of training videos specifically on email marketing. So if you're interested in email marketing, you want to build your email list, you want to learn how to do it like a pro, those videos will show you for free how to set up your autoresponder, how to set up your email list, all that really cool stuff, totally free in that video series. Okay, so the pros build an email list, and every day, they're working on building that email list. So when you're promoting yourself online, whatever you're doing, you're always sharing a way that people can get on your newsletter so you can build your email list, because your email list is the greatest marketing tool that you have. When I do book launches and I compare all the marketing that I do, everything from social media to press releases to, sending books to reviewers, everything I've ever done for marketing a book, one email to my list always hands down beats every other marketing strategy, except in a few cases. But consistently over time, email is by far the most effective marketing strategy I've found. And the cool thing is, once you've built that email list, it's free. So my 10,000 subscribers on my email list, it's free. I paid for that in the past. I built that up. But now when I do a new book launch and I email my list and I sell, 500 or 1,000 books in a day or two, just from one email or from a series of emails to my list, that is just pure profit for me, because I haven't paid. I'm not paying every time I send an email out, right? So once you build this asset of your email list, it's the most valuable asset you have, your asset of your readers, and a way to stay connected with them. You have to stay connected with your readers, and the email list allows you to do this. The big problem is for a lot of authors that you have a great book, and maybe you have this amazing marketing campaign, you sell 1,000 books or 5,000 books or 10,000 books or more. How do readers stay in touch with you? And most authors really fail at this, especially with ebooks, especially online today, because once they're done reading your book, you don't give them an opportunity to connect with you more. And so what you want to do in every book, make sure you include a place where they can go to opt into your email list, to get on your email list, to stay connected with you, so that you're turning those 10,000 sales, those 10,000 readers, into email subscribers who can then find out more about you, the work that you're doing, and your future book launches and book releases. That's what the pros do. Okay, number 5, professional authors join and build communities. Pros are part of communities, whether it's a community of fellow writers and authors, like a writers group, maybe it's science fiction fans, or a creative or business community. You could be participating in online forums, social media groups, local writers groups, writers conferences, networking groups, whatever it is. Just you have to get out there and connect with other people. Pros don't just sit at home and write all day, completely disconnected from the world. They have to connect with communities, give back, and serve. You gotta get out there and connect with other human beings, whether it be in person or online or both, preferably. Being an introvert is just fine. I'm an introvert, right? just part of my makeup. I don't go out every single day and hang out with people and go to parties every day, because it just doesn't fit my personality. But being a hermit and isolating yourself from the rest of the world is a totally separate thing from being an introvert, and it'll only limit your ideas and creativity if you all stay holed up in your home, in your office, or wherever you write, and you never leave out. You never go out there and connect with other people. It's really going to limit your potential, because you're limiting the ideas and creativity that are coming in to your life. So get out there and connect with other people, whether it's online. There's tons of great groups on Facebook. We've got a Facebook group called the Kindle Publishing Bible Group, with over 3,000 authors. You can come join that group and connect with other authors. There's lots of other groups on Facebook and social media and writers forums that you can join and be a part of and learn from others who have come before you, share your ideas, get ideas from others. That's what you got to do. It's very hard, in my experience, to become successful all by yourself. We all need help from other people. And these communities are the greatest place I found to get that help, to get that support, and also to give back to others as well. Okay, number 6, professional authors invest in their own self-education. This is huge. You see, the pros understand that learning is the key to success. Out of everything else that you do, learning is I would say learning is the second most important thing that you do, because you actually have to apply that learning. There's a difference between learning something and doing something, right? So you can learn something, but you don't really know that unless you apply it, right? And unless you apply it to your life. So, for example, I've been training for an ultimate frisbee, tournament. So we started ultimate practice, which ultimate frisbee is like it's kind of like football, but you have a frisbee instead of a football, and there's no contact. So the local group here, we started a training, and we have a coach, and we have practice. And at practice, we learned some strategies, some basically systems of how the game works, and strategies of how to take advantage of it. And so we learned that at practice on Tuesday, and then on Thursday we had a scrimmage. And a scrimmage is it's not organized, there's no coach, it's just, people go and we play for fun. And in the scrimmage, I noticed that the team I was on, we weren't really applying anything that we had learned on Tuesday, right? We weren't following the system at all. And so, after we got scored on like 4 times in a row, I was like, hey guys, what about this and what about that? Like, why don't we just follow the system? And, everyone was like, oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. Like, we should just follow the system. And that's the amazing thing about life, is that, a lot of times we learn things, but then we immediately forget to apply them, right? So the key for learning is to actually apply it, right? So if you're going to invest in your own self-education, if you're going to listen to podcast shows like this, if you're going to buy books on writing and authorship and publishing and marketing, or go to courses or seminars or whatever, that's all wonderful things, and you should be doing those things on a regular basis. But just make sure that you're applying what you learn when it's the right time for you. In other words, again, if there's a tip out of these 15 tips I share with you today doesn't fit with you, you don't really feel like it's the right thing for you, don't worry about it. Don't apply it. Don't worry about doing that right now if you don't feel it's the right thing to do. But when you find that idea and you say, oh, that's a great idea, I should be doing that, and then you don't do that, you don't apply that, it's as if you never learned it at all, right? Knowledge is useless unless you apply it. That's my whole point here. So make sure you're actually applying what you learn. Write down, get a list, get a notebook, write down what you're learning, things you want to apply to your own life, to your own business, to your own books, to your own career, and then apply it. Because without application, knowledge is worthless, right? So learning is really like a part-time job for professionals, and they work at it as often as they can. I spend every day learning somehow, whether it's on YouTube or Quora, watching videos, reading forums, reading books, going to seminars, going to workshops. Whatever I can do on a regular basis, I'm always learning, right? And I'm sure you are too, because you're listening to this podcast show right now. So just make sure that you're applying what you're learning, right? And so no matter how successful they become, pros always want to learn more and apply that knowledge to their life, right? A professional never thinks, oh, I know it all, right? I've come to this place where I know everything. I don't need to learn from others. I've got it all, right? We all need to learn more. No one knows everything. So we all need to learn more and study, and especially in this field as an author, because everything's changing so fast now in the publishing industry that if you don't keep learning, if you don't catch up, you're just going to fall farther and farther behind. Okay, number 7, professional authors read great and popular writers, right? So, there might be a little difference there between what you consider a great writer and a popular writer, and that's fine. But professionals read voraciously, right? They read both the classics, right? The literary fiction, the great literary books, as well as popular books in your market or genre, to learn how to write better and how to communicate better, as well as what your readers are buying today, right? So it's great to read what interests you, of course, but you also want to read things that interest your audience, right? Whether it's unpopular, unsophisticated, unpretentious, doesn't matter. So this is big. So for instance, a couple months ago, I noticed that Divergent came out. Divergent series, if you haven't read that, it's it was this huge thing. It came out. It was very, very big. Sold many millions of copies, and it was like number one on Amazon for like more than a month. And at first I was like, oh, it's not, and it was number one, number two, and number three because it's a trilogy. So the number one, number two, and number three best-selling books on Amazon were the books in that series for over a month. And for the first month, I was like, oh, no big deal. It's just this new book, whatever, it's just a fad. No big deal, right? But when it was on at number one for more than a month, like more than 45 days, I was like, okay, look, it's been number one for so long. Obviously, there's something to this. I've got to get it. I've got to read it just so I can learn like what readers are reading today. And I don't even write fiction, but I've got a lot of clients who write fiction and young adult fiction and science fiction and all that stuff. And so I needed to stay up to date on that, right? And it's funny because I go to writers' conferences, I speak at writers' conferences and seminars and workshops, and it's like a lot of the publishing agents, and the pros in the industry, it's like they're so busy, that they almost complain about like they're so busy with submissions and reading manuscripts from submissions that they don't actually have time to read like the popular stuff and read for enjoyment. And and you might feel the same way, like you're really, really busy, I know, but you want to kind of take the time out to read what's popular today. Even if you don't think it's great writing, just read what people are reading. Like 50 Shades of Grey, if you're writing erotica or romance, anything to do with romance or love or sex, you should read that book because your audience loves that book, right? And you might be writing something totally different, but if you want that audience to buy your book, you better understand what they love that's out there already, okay? And it'll, and you'll get an idea. Maybe you think 50 Shades of Grey is the worst book ever, but maybe you'll see one idea, one seed of an idea will come to you from reading that book that you can apply to your own books or your own writing or your marketing campaign that will help you take it to a much, much higher level. So again, pros read great and popular writers. You read the literary stuff as well as the stuff that sells really, really well, the commercial stuff, right? And you do it in your field and your audience so you can understand your audience and what they want, so you can help give them more of what they want and become a better writer and author yourself. Okay, number 8, professional authors treat their careers like a business, not just a hobby. This is huge, guys. Look, pros don't treat their writing like a hobby, they treat it like a business. And that means that they don't just, mess around and try it, and they're not just saying, like, the mentality of a hobbyist is, oh, I'm going to try this out, and, if it works, that's great, and if not, that's fine, no big deal. The pros take it seriously, right? They might do all kinds of stuff to treat it like a business. For instance, they might track their own writing times or productivity, like the word count. A lot of writers track how many words they write every day. They keep track of the word count. You might invest more money in books and courses and training programs and seminars than others might think is appropriate. You'll probably work harder than others think is realistic or prudent. People might call you a workaholic because you work so much. But that's really just other people projecting their values on you, right? If you really want to succeed as an author, you're going to do whatever it takes for you to succeed. That's just how it works. One thing the pros don't do is they don't play it safe. They don't pretend that writing is just a hobby for them. They don't pretend that, oh, I'm just trying this out, and if it works out, that's great, and if not, that's okay. Pros take this seriously. They really commit to their own success. And even when they're broke, even when no one knows who they are, pros still have that vision of, I'm going to make a difference in the world. I'm going to connect with readers. People are going to buy my books and they're going to love them. And it's going to inspire them and change their life and make the world a better place. That's what the pros focus on, that vision, even when they're broke, even before they've never seen any sales whatsoever, right? So maybe it started out as a hobby for you, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong. It started out as a hobby for most of the pros, right? But it kind of grows from the hobby to something more. It becomes a passion of yours, an obsession. It becomes a way of life that you just have to write. Like, episode number 29 in the Publishing Profits podcast, and you use Steve Barrett, and he says, the first thing he says, I just have this voice in my head that just tells me, I gotta write. And, if you don't have that voice in your head, maybe it's in your heart, maybe it's somewhere in your life that you just feel like, I've got to write. I wouldn't be the same without writing. Writing has changed my life. It's made me a better person, a better communicator in so many ways. And, that's what pros just have, this inner drive to write. Even if I didn't get paid for it, I would still write, right? I probably wouldn't write as much. I probably wouldn't write in the same format of the books that I'm writing now. I wouldn't, I might not work as hard, but I would still write For sure, I would always be writing, whether I got paid for it or not, because it's just what I do. It's what I love. It's a process for me that isn't just awesome to create a finished book, but it creates, catharsis and growth in my own life as well. So professional authors treat their careers like a business, not just a hobby. All right, number 9. Professional authors don't wait for inspiration to write, right? The pros don't wait for inspiration. Instead, they just write. Whether it's good or bad doesn't matter. Like Michael Jordan, he would practice free throw after free throw after free throw long after all the other, players had gone home, right? And just like that dogged persistence to success, to be willing to miss over and over again like Michael Jordan was, like professional writers, they practice writing word after word, sentence after sentence, paragraph after paragraph, and book after book. Right? So if you write a bad word, or a bad sentence, or a bad paragraph, or a bad book, right, you either go back and you rewrite it, or you just move on to the next one. That's just how life is. You have to be willing to take the failures and the mistakes along the way, because they're just inevitable. But either way, no matter what happens, success or failure, you can continue to write in good times and bad times. When the public has no idea who you are, when the public loves you, or when the public hates you, pros have to continue to write no matter what. And it's really interesting to see, because there are lots of, I would say like excuses or reasons why people quit, right? And so some of the people quit because, no one knows who I am, so I might as well quit now because it's not worth it, right? Other people, you say, the public loves me so much and my book is so successful, I don't have to write again because I've already made it, right? And others will use the excuse of, the public hates me. I wrote this book and I got all these bad reviews and it did really well for a while and now it's fizzling out and now I'm going to quit, right? So there's all kinds of excuses you can use to quit. But the pros don't quit. No matter what happens, you just don't quit. Just keep writing. Don't wait for perfect timing or inspiration or the world to say you're perfect, because this is not how it works. Just keep writing no matter what happens. Okay, number 10, professional authors plan their writing ahead of time. Pros plan their writing ahead of time, and this means they spend time planning their outlines and scenes before they sit down to write, right? So you're going to invest a few minutes planning, whether it be on paper or in your head or, in Microsoft Word or wherever your writing processor is. And that way, when you plan ahead, when you outline stuff, when you sit down to write, you know exactly what you're going to write that day. You don't know maybe the exact words you're going to use, but you have this idea in your mind of what you're going to work on. So when you sit down to paper, you're already excited, you're inspired, and you just start writing immediately instead of just staring at a blank page hoping for inspiration to hit you, right? Pros don't leave their writing to chance, they plan ahead. If inspiration strikes and you just feel like you have to sit down and start writing a new book or a new scene immediately, that's wonderful. That's awesome when that happens. But you can't just expect that's going to happen every day, right? So if you don't get that strike of inspiration, sit down, plan your scenes out, plan your next chapters, your next whatever it is for fiction or nonfiction for you. Plan the next scene or chapter out and start writing after you've planned it out, after you have your outline, after you have your sketch of what's going to happen. That way, when you sit down to write, you're not thinking about what to write. You already know what to write, and you're just putting it into action. Okay, number 11. Professional authors fall in love with rewriting and editing. Pros fall in love with rewriting and editing. It doesn't mean they have to enjoy every second of it or they smile all the while, right? It means you understand that editing and rewriting is the only path to creating something great, right? Without it, you can't have greatness. You can't have a great book. So you have to fall in love with the habits that make you great, just as a mother falls in love with her baby when she gives birth, right? You're giving birth to this new book, this new life in the world. You have to fall in love with it to make it work. Because if you're not in love with your book, with your writing, with the rewriting process, that's what creates your success, right? The rewriting and editing is what creates your success. Writing a first draft of a book is in comparison, it's pretty easy, right? The hard work comes with the rewriting and editing. And most authors actually hate this process, right? It's hard, it's a struggle. Number 30, the podcast show, I think it's Shoshana Evers, and she talks about she loves the writing and the rewriting and editing process, right? And most authors don't love that process. But what I mean by fall in love with this process is you have to understand that this is what makes you successful, right? So most people, what they do is they fall in love with success, the money, the sales, the publicity, whatever it is, right? They fall in love with success, with their idea of success, right? But what you want to do instead is fall in love with the habits, the activity that creates success in your life, right? Because without that habit, those habits, without that activity, success won't come, or if you have success, it won't stick around, right? So fall in love with the activity that's going to take you where you want to go. And it's like all those things you say you should be doing and you know you should be doing that, but you're not. That's the kind of stuff you have to fall in love with. You have to come to this place where you're willing to do whatever it takes to succeed and just go for it. Right? And is it painful and difficult sometimes when you're writing, rewriting, editing? Of course it is. But it's totally worth it. And it's the only way to create new life. Right? It's the only way to create new life is to go through those birth pains. That's just how it works. Okay, number 12. Professional authors publish quickly and avoid procrastination and perfectionism. Now, some might argue with me on this, and not all the pros publish quickly. Some take a lot of time to publish. But what I mean by this is they don't get stuck in perfectionism. You know, like number 29, Steve Barry, he edits his books 60 to 75 times. And that's, some people might say that's really perfectionistic. But I've seen other authors who spend even more time editing stuff, rewriting over and over, even more than 60 or 75 edits. And they're basically using the editing and rewriting process as an excuse, to be perfectionist and to avoid publishing their work because they're afraid of what people are going to think, or that's a common fear. It might be another fear that they have or another block that they have. But, the pros don't wait until the timing is just right or the book is just perfect, because the timing will never be just right, and there are no perfect books, right? It just doesn't exist. So you have to go through many edits and rewrites often. That's normal. But you don't get stuck there. You don't get stuck in the editing process. So if you have to go through 75 edits and rewrites before your editor gets a hand on it, just like Steve Barry, that's fine. But if you're using the number of edits you have to go through as an excuse to not publish your book, then maybe you're not on the right track. So take a look at that. And you have to realize that if you want your writing to actually be read, you have to publish it sooner rather than later. Right? The truth is that until you allow the world to read your book, you'll never know how good it is, or what kind of impact it have, or what your readers can teach you, or how your book can change the world, or how it can inspire your readers. You'll never know until you publish, right? And so second editions exist for this reason, that it doesn't have to be perfect when you publish. You can always make changes later. For nonfiction, especially. For novel, it's a little bit different. You generally don't come out with a second edition for a novel, so you probably want to get your novel right before you publish it, for sure. But for nonfiction, you can almost come out with the second edition later as things change. Like a great example is I have a book on Facebook marketing for business owners called Facebook for Business Owners. And it's about Facebook and how to use it for a business owner and to market yourself and your business. And, it's like Facebook makes changes every month, it seems like. So I have to go back and do a second edition. I think it's like the 5th or 6th edition now of that book, because things change so fast in the online world today. If I had waited for 2 years, 3 years to publish that book, by the time I waited to publish it, it already would have been out of date. So for stuff like that's new and modern and relevant about technology, about things that change fast, you have to publish quickly. Otherwise, there's just no chance of success, right? And so realize that when you publish your book, it doesn't have to be done. If you find typos with today, that books exist in a file, whether it's an ebook file or whether it's a print on demand you're using, and so you have a file for your paperback or your whatever. It's a file. You can always update the file later, and it'll be immediately updated for your customers. That's just how it works. So don't get stuck that once your book is published, you can never change it. You can always go back and change it and update and make changes later. So don't let that stop you from publishing. Okay, number 13. Professional authors work on multiple projects. Pros are always working on multiple projects. Whether it's multiple books or other creative endeavors, pros never stop creating, and they often have multiple projects going on at one time. And working on multiple projects for me has many benefits. First of all, it helps to be able to work on a new project if a current one gets dull or boring. This happens for me a lot. So I'll be like halfway through a new book, and I'll just be like, I'm really bored with that book right now. I don't want to do more research on it. I'm just bored, and I want to get on to a new project, a new idea that I have. And I've got a list. I've got a whole list of book ideas that I haven't even started yet. I've got a whole series of books that I've started to sketch out the ideas for them. I've done a little bit of outlining here and there. I've got probably 15 manuscripts that are partially written at different points in the process. And maybe I won't ever finish all 15 of those. I don't know. But I've always got these multiple projects going on so that, if I do get bored with whatever I'm doing, I can move on to something that excites me and inspires me, because I'm of the mindset that if something I don't love it, if I'm not inspired by it, I don't do it. I mean, and it's not even necessarily a conscious decision. It's like also it's totally subconscious. Like if you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're not going to do it. You're not going to get it done. You're not going to be effective and efficient and productive if you're not enjoying what you're doing. So if you get bored with the project, if you feel stuck on a project, start up a new idea. And you don't have to complete that new idea. You can go back to that other project and finish it. But as long as you're working on creating something new, and you're not stuck in perfectionism that's avoiding you from actually finishing work, it's fine to start as many projects as you want, as long as you do finish at least some of them and the ones that are important to you, right? So it's fine to start as many projects as you want. Just don't use multiple projects as an excuse not to finish projects that are important to you, okay? And another big benefit of multiple projects is it helps avoid getting too attached to the project, right? If you only have one book and you fall in love with it and your book is your baby and readers don't like it, you'll be devastated. If you get all these bad reviews, you'll be devastated because it's the only book you have. It's the only idea you had that you put into action, right? If you have multiple projects, if you have other books going on, you won't take it as personally, right? And we all take reviews personally, bad reviews personally. It just happens. But if you only have one book, it's much, much harder to cope with than if you have several projects going on, right? You'll continue to work instead of getting stuck in self-pity and despair if you have other projects to work on to keep you motivated, to keep you going. And then another reason that pros work on multiple projects is because pros love to create. We love to create. We love to write, right? It's like we love it so much that like we can't just work on one book. Like that's crazy. Just one book? No, we got to do more. And not everyone feels this way, but that's how I felt in my career. I just love to write. I want to write more. That's why I've got all these books sketched out, and all these book ideas, and all these books partially written, and all the books published that I've published. For a pro, writing and creating isn't just a strategic initiative or a great marketing plan or a meticulously planned business strategy. Instead, it's an act of love. We love to write. That's why we write. That's what pros do. Okay, number 14. Professional authors embrace their uniqueness and stay true to themselves. Pros embrace their own unique quirks, habits, and temperaments. They don't just believe everything they read online or everything they hear on podcast shows like this. They don't try to do what everyone else is doing. And they don't change what works for them if they know it works. So if you're doing something, like you only work on one project at a time, and that one project works for you, and you never want to do multiple projects, you found what works for you, that's fine. You don't have to follow my advice. It's just my opinion. It's just my ideas that have worked for me. It doesn't have to work for you. If you found a better way for you, that's great. It's better for you. Do what you do. Don't sacrifice your values for the values of others. This is big, right? Pros stay true to themselves. Right, Shakespeare said, this above all, to thine own self be true. That I think is, if everyone in the world could just learn that above all, be true to yourself. That's huge, right? And it's about your values. So don't sacrifice your own values for the values of others. A lot of times what we do is we project other people's values onto ourselves. So, we see someone who's, sold millions of books and we think, oh, I want to be just like them. Look how much money they have and how successful they are and how famous they are. And we want to be just like them, and we think that their life is so much better than our life. But the truth is, no one has a better life than someone else. We all have our own lives. And we all have different values. And so if you want more money in your life, and you value money, and you see that in other people, but you don't have as much money as you want, then you need to go work and to create that, right, for your life. But don't think that just because someone has more money than you, that they have a better life than you. I mean, look at every area of their life. Look at their relationships. Look at their spiritual life. Look at their emotional life. Look at their family. Look at their health. Do they have all those areas of their life as good as you do? Chances are they don't, right? So everyone has better, you might say they're better in some areas and worse in other areas. And again, this is all based on your own values. There's no true better or worse that exists. It's all about our own projection of reality, right? So look at that in your own life and say, where do you see something is missing in your life? So you see, oh, money's missing for me, or success is missing for me. I'm not selling enough books. That's missing for me. And you feel like that's a hole in your life that you have to fill that to be happy. You don't. You can be happy right now, right? And so if you want more success, more sales in your life, you have to look at your values and say, is what I'm doing on a regular basis going to take me where I'm going to go, where I want to go? Is it going to take me to the level of success I want for my life? And if not, then you have to make some changes. You have to really reorganize your life and how you spend your time and how you think about success. If you want that and you're willing to work for it, understand that everything in life comes with a price. Everything in life comes with a price. So if you want more money, you got to pay the price. The hard work, the hours it takes, the studying, the dedication, all the things I've talked about in this podcast show right now, all that stuff, you have to be willing to do whatever it takes to succeed if that's what you want. And you have to be willing to pay that price. It doesn't come free. There is no free lunch. Success does not come free. It doesn't come easy. It doesn't come cheap, right? But if you want it, you can achieve it by putting in the work and effort to do it, right? So when pros decide to make changes, they make those changes because they know or feel it's the right thing to do, not just because someone else said it's the way it should be done. So make sure, if you're looking to make some serious changes in your life, you do it because you think it's the right thing to do, not because someone told you to do it. So don't go and make all these changes because I said so in the show. Make those changes because you feel in your heart, this is the right thing for me right now at this time to do. That's when you know you're on the right track. Okay, number 15. If all else fails and they don't know what to write, professional authors just make something up, right? Like this, when I wrote this blog post, I had this idea, I'll do a blog post on 15 ideas, right? And I can only come up with 14. And I was like, what is number 15 going to be? And I was like, all right, if all else fails, I don't know what to write, I'm just going to make it up. And that's true in my experience. It's like, you don't know what to do, you just make something up. You just make up a new idea. It's just like you just sit down and you say, okay, what are my 15 steps? What is this next book? What is going to happen in this next scene? And you just brainstorm ideas until you come to something and you say, oh, that sounds cool, and you just make it up. I mean, look at fiction. It's all imagination. It's all made up, right? This stuff doesn't exist except in the mind of the author, and the author created that idea, right? So pros aren't afraid to just make something up and try something new, right? If it's awful, so be it. You wrote an awful book, you wrote an awful scene, you wrote an awful chapter. No big deal, right? It's better to write something awful than to write nothing at all and let your creativity atrophy, right? Don't be afraid of bad writing. Everyone starts out as a bad writer. Even the greatest writers in the world, we all start out as bad writers. And you get better as you go. It's just how it works. You get better as you practice more and more. So if a professional athlete practices 4 hours and performs poorly, they don't regret that practice. They don't say, oh, I practiced for 4 hours and I did so bad at practice, I've wasted my time. I shouldn't have practiced at all, right? That'd be ridiculous for an athlete to say that. But oftentimes as writers, we say, oh man, I wrote an entire book. I spent 6 months on it. It's a bad book. I wasted my time. That's not a waste of time. That's practice. Just look at just like an athlete. That's practice. And the truth is, if you write a bad book after all that time invested in it, you need the practice. We all need practice, right? That's just how life works. So don't regret your practice. Don't regret your mistakes. Don't regret your failures. That's just what you need. That's practice for your journey to get better and better as you go, right? So take it as a sign that you need to practice more, and you might want to try harder or try something different. Try a new idea. Try rewriting. Try learning more. Try reading more books. Try studying more to see what you can fix. Try getting feedback from other writers, other authors, beta readers, your communities online, your writers group. Give feedback. Get better. Learn new ways, new strategies, new ideas to do things even better, right? Professional authors practice just like professional athletes. We never regret our practice, right? We don't regret our mistakes. And sure, it's fine to regret a book that flops or a book that's awful in the sense that you wish it had been better. But don't regret it in the sense that every hour you spent, every minute you spent writing, every minute you spent thinking about that book was practice so that you can get better so your next one can be even better, right? It might not always be pretty, but practice is always worth it. Okay? I hope this show has been helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it's a little bit different than normal. Hope you got some awesome notes out of this and you're going to apply some new knowledge to your life, to your career to make it even better. Hey, please send me an email, tom@tckpublishing.com. Let me know what you liked about the show, what you didn't like. Let me know what your favorite tip was. Let me know if there's one key idea that stuck out to you that you're going to go apply to your life right now. I'd love to hear from you. And let me know if you love shows like this, if you would love more interviews. I want to hear from you, see how I can make the show the best possible show for you. All right? I'm wishing you an incredible day. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.